You want to be a part of the fun here on Seahawks Today? You need to be an award-winning subscriber to the channel so you can be a part of our live shows and get on our next Q&A mailbag. Subscribe now. Turn on notifications so you never miss a moment. YouTube.com/Seahawks TV. Be a real one and subscribe to Seahawks Today. Welcome in to a mailbag edition of Seahawks Today. You have questions, and you're in luck because I have answers. And we will take your questions and see what you guys have on today's show. Our first question in the inbox comes from Robbie Red. Robbie Red wants to know, Bam Bam needs to be a first ballot Hall of Famer? Absolutely. So what Robbie is referring to is the news of the Hall of Fame candidates that have come out. And, just to kind of catch you guys up to speed, they announced these nominees. There are a ton of nominees. I'm not going to go through all of them, but there were a lot of guys that got nominated. I mean, even somehow, and I know that a lot of guys get nominated, but somehow Pat McAfee got nominated for the Hall of Fame. I mean, that goes to show you this wide net they've cast it out. But Bam Bam makes the list, and I think there's a pretty good chance that we see Bam Bam make that one. Kam Chancellor had a really good career in Seattle, and the resume for him included a Super Bowl championship. He was a two-time second-team All-Pro, four-team All-Pro selection. The talent level there, the one problem that I think Kam Chancellor is going to come upon as far as being a Hall of Fame candidate is the longevity. He was only in the league from 2010 to 2017. Now, we did see Terrell Davis, who played, 6-7 years, and he got in the Hall of Fame a couple years ago. But historically speaking, the Hall of Fame has not been kind to guys that had short careers. So Kam Chancellor, the talent's there. I don't know if he's got the longevity necessarily to be there, and I doubt if he gets in, he would be a first ballot Hall of Famer. But thanks for the question. Mark Sanchez writes, for the shot, that's coming, and this is a promise. If Bam Bam makes the Hall of Fame, I'll purchase a $500 super chat. Yeah, that like what I was saying there. I mean, that would be tough if Bam Bam makes the Hall of Fame. If Kam Chancellor makes it because of the longevity issue. The talent was there. He was a really good player in his career, but playing just between 2010 and 2017 is going to make that difficult for him to be a Hall of Famer. Thanks for that one there, Mark. Next one comes from Gilly. Gilly writes, what's the Seahawks' biggest issue right now? I think it's the line of scrimmage. For me, when I look at the offensive and defensive line, in particular what happened in that game against the San Francisco 49ers, this team just got bullied around. They got beat left and right. The offensive line, the defensive line, both really just struggled. Now, with the offensive line, it's a young group, right? With Charles Cross and Abraham Lucas, those guys are going to take time to develop. Those guys are going to have really good careers, but they're still really young. There's going to be some growing pains. What concerns me more when you break down the two was the defensive line, because we know the Seahawks have good players there. And for them to get beat around like they did, for the Niners to run the football as effectively as they were able to do, that concerns me with this Seahawks team, is that front line of just getting beat up like that. When you have a Seahawks team that wants to run the football as much as they want to do, you got to win up front. You got to be able to block. And on the other side, you got to be able to get stops. And for me, that's what I want to see, is the offensive and defensive line really come together and step up and win in the trenches. What's your confidence level in the Seahawks O-line right now? Say it with your chest. Scale it 1 through 100. Our pinned comment today, you might get an ad break. If so, take advantage of it and let us know in the comments section what your confidence level is in the Seahawks offensive line. Tell me 1 through 100 what that is. Chris writes in, how are you grading the coaching staff through week 2? Week 1, I thought the Seahawks coaching staff did a really good job. I thought that they were well prepared for Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos. They knew Russ so well, it showed in that game, and they had a lot of time to prepare for it, obviously. Week 2, though, the coaching staff did a terrible job. I mean, flat out. Shane Waldron called a horrible game. He did not put Geno Smith in position to succeed at all. It was bad, and they had no solution. They were unprepared for Jimmy G. Look, I know Jimmy G came in after Trey Lance got hurt, but you've seen the guy for how many years now, right? I mean, how many matchups have the Seahawks played against Jimmy G and the Niners? I've lost count now. It's been a lot. And the way that they faced Jimmy G, it looked like they'd never seen him play football before. It blew my mind about that. So I would say it was an A week 1, it was an F week 2, and so then the law of averages, I'd grade the coaching staff about a C at this point through 2 weeks. I think that's fair. I'd give them a C grade here through 2 weeks. Ken writes in, any chance of seeing a change at quarterback Sunday? Sunday's a little early for me as far as the quarterback change goes. I do think there's a good chance we see Drew Lock this year. Even if we see Geno Smith have a solid year, if the Seahawks continue to lose football games, then you could be looking for a spark of some sorts, right? And try to change things up that way. So I don't see the Seahawks playing Drew Lock this week unless Geno were to get hurt. But I'm not ruling it out down the line to see what they have in Drew Lock potentially, as far as I'm concerned. Flash writes, if the Seahawks were to trade players today, what position should they target and who would they trade away? Well, the obvious answer is the quarterback position. If you were able to find a franchise quarterback out there, that'd be great. You know, if you could make a trade and find a franchise quarterback at a reasonable price, I think that would be the first thing you would trade for, you'd be looking at. But then beyond that, I think I would look at the linebacker spots, getting some help for Jordan Brooks there. We talked about this week that group is kind of depleted right now, and Cody Barton may be good for this year, but you don't know about him long term. So I'd look at the linebacker spot. I'd look at the quarterback position. Those are the things that would come to mind. And then offensive line, you're going to grow with your tackles, but could you trade for a guard or could you trade for a center for the future potentially? Those are the things I'd look at. Those are the first few ones that come to mind. Thanks for the question, Flash. Next one comes from Coach Dreadhead. He just followed me on Instagram, by the way. You can follow me too, at Tyler Jones Live. Hashtag Seahawks, if Pete was to get fired, who would be the perfect fit for Coach's replacements? Well, you put me on the spot here. And, producer Jeremy Chuggs brings up Deuce Staley. But for me, the names that I would look at, the first one that comes to mind, and I don't know if he'd want the job, and you'd have to give something up to get him, would be Sean Payton. I think everybody's linking Sean Payton to the Cowboys job. But if for whatever reason that doesn't work out, maybe the Seahawks job would be a possibility. If I'm looking at the college level, I'm calling up Lincoln Riley at USC. One of the best offensive minds in the country. I think his game would translate well to the NFL. Those would be kind of the two names off the top of my head that I'd be looking at. Would be Sean Payton, be Lincoln Riley. Also, I'd be looking at, when it comes to coordinators, he's been passed over a lot. I know that there's been some rumors of internal conflict, but Eric Bieniemy of the Kansas City Chiefs, I think Eric Bieniemy is one of the best offensive minds and deserves to be a head coach by now. To me, those are the three names I would look at. I would lean towards finding an offensive coach. That's the way this league is going. So my hot board right away would be Sean Payton, Lincoln Riley, Eric Bieniemy. Maybe if you're looking for another college coach, John Harbaugh, not John, he's with the Ravens. Jim Harbaugh is always a possibility as well. So those are my names that I've come up with just on the spot. But thanks for the question, Coach. Maybe we'll hire Coach Dreadhead to be the next Seahawks head coach if Pete Carroll were to leave. Today's show is presented by BetUS. Use the promo code Seahawks125 for a 125% deposit bonus at chatsports.com/bet. You put $100 down, you get $125 to spend for free. It's all at chatsports.com/bet. You can bet on this weekend's game against the Falcons. Seahawks barely favored just by one. Get your bets in now and start making some money with the exclusive sports book partner of Chat Sports. It's BetUS. We've got your game. Promo code Seahawks125. Chatsports.com/bet for 125% deposit bonus. Next question from Spider Fan. I'll try again. C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young or Will Levis or other for Seahawks QB in 2023. Looking at those guys, Will Levis, I think, still has the most to prove of the three. I think Bryce Young is the most athletic, and I think C.J. Stroud probably has the nicest arm of the three. Personally, I think Stroud and Bryce Young are pretty comparable. Will Levis, I think there's a drop-off. I think I would probably rank it what you have on your screen there. I'd probably go Stroud, then Young, then Will Levis. But I think there is quite a drop-off after Stroud or Young. Now, when it comes to this draft, here's how this draft is going to work. I'm going to tell you this right now so you know in advance. The number one pick, no matter who you are, or no matter what your need is, the number one pick in this year's draft is going to be Will Anderson of Alabama, the best player in all of college football. If you are a team that needs a quarterback, you can't pass on Will Anderson. Doesn't matter. Figure out the quarterback situation later. Will Anderson goes number one. And then after that, C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, depends on personal preference of who you like better there. So if you're the Seahawks, you have 2 first-round picks. You see Will Anderson go off the board at 1. If you have the number 1 pick, you take him, and then you use your another pick on a quarterback. But if Will Anderson's off the board, then I think you focus in on a quarterback personally. But thanks for the question, Spider Fan. Alex writes in, the Seahawks seem to be shorthanded at corner right now. Yeah, they are. They are very shorthanded at corner right now. The injury list, Justin Coleman and Artie Burns are both questionable. And then Trey Brown, of course, is on the PUP list right now. And so with that, I think the Seahawks internally, you look at Kobe Bryant and Tariq Woolen to take on more as rookies. But if this continues, when it comes to Coleman and Burns, and then if Trey Brown, depending on where he's at, if this goes on for a while, then you're going to have to look at other options. And there's still a few good names of free agent quarterbacks. A.J. Boye's out there. Chris Harris, who I really like, a fellow Jayhawk like myself. He's had a really good career. Kevin King, Xavier Rhodes. And I probably shouldn't mention this on a Seahawks show, but Malcolm Butler is also available as well. So there's 5 names potentially of free agent options. I don't think the Seahawks are at the point yet where they need to go get a free agent corner. But if it gets worse, then we'll see potentially if they need to go get a corner. But there's still some good names out there. In your opinion, should Seattle sign a cornerback? Should they make a move for one of those names we mentioned or somebody we did not mention? Let me know in the comments section. Type Y for yes. Type in for no if the Seahawks should sign a corner. Raw Hector writes in, hashtag Seahawks. Should we draft a linebacker this coming draft? If so, what round? Yes, the Seahawks need to draft a linebacker. In particular, they need an inside linebacker. I don't think Cody Barton's your long-term solution. So, yes, I would draft an inside linebacker personally to play alongside Jordan Brooks. As far as the round goes, that's hard to predict. I would think it'd be one of the higher rounds, but it all depends on who's available and how things shake out. I'll say this much. When you ask me about rounds, I would think that the Seahawks use at least a top 4 round pick. Somewhere in that 1 through 4 range, you will see the Seahawks take a linebacker in this draft. I think that is likely to happen as far as I'm concerned there. But thanks for the question, Raw Hector. Next question from Tipini wants to know, #Seahawks, will Geno throw for over 250 yards this week? Well, so far, Geno Smith has not had a 200-yard football game in either start, whether that was against San Francisco or against Denver, either one. So I don't have reason to think that this week is going to be any different, than he's going to go for 250. Although Atlanta, isn't very good, maybe that's your reason. But I think what we've seen of Geno Smith, I know that Pete Carroll wants him to air it out more, but statistically, those, borderline 200-yard games are probably going to be where Geno Smith is at most of the time. He could, if he gets over 250, it is right at 250, 255, whatever. But I don't expect many, if any, 300-yard games from Geno Smith this season. Mitty writes, what offensive change do you see happening if Seattle don't win more than 5 games? Your running backs are set. That's good. Your wide receivers, for the most part, are set with DK and Tyler Lockett. And your tight end room is pretty well set, too, with Will Dissly and Noah Fant. I think offensively, it's quarterback and it's the interior of the offensive line. It's left guard, center, right guard. So those are the positions. I think it's getting more options at 3, 4, and 5 receiver, and it's quarterback and it's guard and center. Those are the positions I see potentially having changes for the Seahawks if they don't get to 5 wins or not this year. Thanks for the question there, Mitty. Got time for a couple more. This one from Aaron. Will Drew Lock play anytime soon? Yes, I do think we will see Drew Lock at some point this year. Don't think that it happens in the next couple of weeks, but I do think we see him at some point this season. Even if Geno Smith were to turn things around and play great, I think there comes a point when you have to see what you got in Drew Lock. And I do, whether it's an injury, whatever it may be, I think we will see Drew Lock at some point in time. True or false? Drew Lock will play before the end of this season. Type T for true, type F for false. Let me know in the comments section. Drew Lock will play before the end of the season. T for true, F for false. Robbie writes, got to get Noah Fant more involved. 5 targets so far. No doubt about it. Noah Fant has been really good as a young tight end the last couple of seasons. And I think that he still has another step he can take, that he can move forward. And so, yes, Noah Fant, got to get him more involved in the offense. And for Geno Smith, if you want him to be successful, he's got to have the tight ends play well. So, yes, Noah Fant, got to get more involved. Absolutely agree with that, Robbie. I think we got time for one more. Here's a GBK Hawk. #Seahawks. Trade for DeForest Buckner. Maybe a first for him. But if not him, what pass rusher would you trade for? DeForest Buckner is an interesting option for sure, as far as I'm concerned there. As far as other pass rusher options out there, I think, when you look at the pass rushers out there, the Bears have been shopping for a while now. They're big fella. The last, obviously things ended up working out this offseason, but there's an option. There's plenty of guys out there that I think when it comes to pass rushers that the Seahawks potentially could look at. But thanks for the question there, GBK Hawk. As always, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, Facebook as well, @Tyler Jones Live. Love talking to you guys there, and we'll see you next time here on Seahawks Today.